because your attention is one of the most valuable things you possess. Where your attention goes, your energy follows, and where your energy goes, your emotions follow. Most people unknowingly hand all of this power to another person. Their mood depends on messages. Their confidence depends on replies. Their peace depends on someone else's attention. And that is dangerous because now someone else controls your emotional world. The moment you stop giving your attention away so easily, you take that control back. You stop waiting. Stop chasing. Stop checking your phone every few minutes. You begin focusing on your own life again, your goals, your purpose, your growth. And something interesting happens. You start looking different, calmer, stronger, more confident, because confidence often comes from having your own direction. The people who are most attractive are usually not the people desperately asking for attention. They are the people busy building their lives, busy improving themselves, busy creating something meaningful. And because they have their own world, their attention feels valuable. This is why protecting your attention increases your value, because value often comes from scarcity. If your attention is available to everyone all the time, it loses emotional weight. But if your attention becomes intentional, selective, and meaningful, people begin appreciating it differently. The irony is beautiful. The less you chase attention, the more attention you often receive, not because you are playing games, but because people notice confidence. They notice emotional independence. They notice someone who is no longer desperate for validation. There is another reason this matters. When you constantly give attention to someone who has lost interest, you unintentionally communicate something. You communicate that your world revolves around them. And there is nothing attractive about abandoning yourself for another person, because attraction often grows when people sense value, confidence, and purpose, not neediness, not desperation, not emotional dependence. This is why silence feels powerful, because silence says, I have a life outside of you. I have goals outside of this relationship. I respect my own attention, and there is something deeply attractive about a person who values themselves enough to protect their energy. The dark psychology of silence is not revenge. It is self-respect. It is understanding that your attention is precious, that your emotional energy matters, that not everyone deserves unlimited access to you. The people who command the most respect are often those who understand this. They do not ignore people because they are cruel. They simply know their value. They know that attention is power, and they refuse to waste it, because once you reclaim your attention, you begin reclaiming yourself. You stop making someone else the center of your world, and when you stop doing that, something unexpected often happens. People begin noticing your absence. They begin wondering about you. Because the moment your attention is no longer guaranteed, curiosity begins to appear. And curiosity is where the real power of silence truly begins. Once you stop giving your attention away so freely, something powerful begins to happen. Silence creates curiosity. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. The moment someone pulls away, they panic. They send another message. They ask questions. They try to explain themselves. They desperately attempt to fill the empty space. But the empty space is often where the real psychology begins, because human beings are naturally curious creatures. We think about what we do not fully understand. We become interested in what feels uncertain. We pay attention to what suddenly changes. This is why silence can be so powerful. When you are constantly available, there is nothing left to wonder about. People know exactly where you are, exactly how you feel, exactly what you will do next. Everything becomes predictable. And predictability often kills curiosity. But the moment you become quiet, something changes. Questions begin appearing. Why did they stop texting? What are they doing? Why do they suddenly seem different? Have they moved on? And these questions create emotional movement. This is the dark psychology of silence. Silence gives people space to think about you, and thinking about someone is often the first step toward missing them. Most people make the mistake of trying to force attention, but forced attention rarely lasts. Real attention often comes from curiosity, and curiosity cannot exist when everything is constantly explained. Think about your own experiences. Sometimes a person became more interesting to you the moment they became less available. Not because they were playing games, but because uncertainty naturally captured your attention. The human mind dislikes unfinished stories. It wants answers. It wants understanding. This is why silence often becomes louder than words, because silence creates mystery, and mystery creates attraction. This does not mean becoming cold or manipulative. It means becoming comfortable with not explaining everything, comfortable with not chasing every person who becomes distant, comfortable with allowing people to wonder. Powerful people understand this. They do not react to every situation immediately. They do not feel the need to constantly prove their feelings. They are comfortable with silence because they are comfortable with themselves. And there is something deeply attractive about that. Because silence often communicates confidence, it says, I am not desperate. I am not afraid of space. I do not need constant attention to feel valuable. This kind of energy changes everything, because most people are so afraid of losing someone that they destroy their own mystery. They explain too much, talk too much, chase too much. And in doing so, they remove all emotional tension. But emotional tension is important because it keeps people thinking, keeps people curious, keeps people emotionally engaged. The irony is beautiful. The harder you try to stay on someone's mind, the less they often think about you. The more comfortable you become with silence, the more your absence begins creating questions. And questions create attention. There is another reason silence works. It protects your dignity. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say nothing, no begging, no chasing, no emotional speeches, just silence, because silence communicates strength. It communicates self-respect. It communicates emotional control. And emotional control is powerful. Most people react immediately because they are afraid of losing someone, afraid of being forgotten, afraid of being replaced. But the person who can remain calm in silence communicates something completely different. They communicate inner confidence. And confidence is magnetic. This is why silence often reignites lost interest. Because suddenly your attention is no longer guaranteed. Your presence is no longer predictable. And your absence begins creating curiosity. The truth is simple. People rarely think deeply about what is constantly available. They think about what suddenly becomes uncertain. They think about what they can no longer fully understand. They think about what seems different. And silence creates all three. Once you understand the power of curiosity, you stop trying to force people to notice you and start becoming someone who is emotionally complete on their own, because true attraction grows strongest in the presence of emotional independence. After silence creates curiosity, something even more powerful begins to happen. You become emotionally independent. And emotional independence is attractive in a way that most people never understand. Most people believe attraction comes from showing someone how much you need them. They think that if they care more, text more, and give more attention, the other person will feel special and stay. But human psychology often works differently. Neediness creates pressure. Pressure creates distance. And distance slowly turns into lost interest. Think about it. When someone feels that your entire happiness depends on them, the relationship becomes heavy. Your attention no longer feels valuable. It starts feeling expected. Even worse, it starts feeling like a responsibility, and nobody wants to feel responsible for another person's emotional stability. This is why emotional independence is so powerful. An emotionally independent person enjoys relationships, but they do not depend on them to feel complete. They appreciate attention, but they do not need constant reassurance. They care about people, but they do not abandon themselves for them. And there is something incredibly attractive about this kind of person, because emotional independence communicates strength. It says, I enjoy your presence, but I can still be happy without it. I value you, but I also value myself. I choose this relationship, but my life does not depend on it. This kind of energy changes everything. Because confidence grows when your happiness no longer depends entirely on another person's actions, most people become less attractive because they slowly lose themselves. their entire world begins revolving around one person. They stop focusing on their goals, stop enjoying their hobbies, stop investing in their own growth. Everything becomes about getting someone else's attention. And the more this happens, the more desperate they appear. Desperation pushes people away, but emotional independence does the opposite. It creates freedom, because now your mood does not depend on a message. Your confidence does not depend on someone's approval. Your peace does not depend on someone choosing you. You choose yourself first, and this creates something powerful, inner confidence. The irony is beautiful. The moment you stop needing someone desperately is often the moment they begin noticing you differently, because now you appear calmer, more relaxed, more secure. You are no longer chasing, no longer trying to force anything. You are simply living your life, growing, moving forward. And there is something magnetic about a person who seems emotionally complete on their own. Another reason emotional independence is attractive is because it removes fear. Most people chase because they are afraid of losing someone, afraid of being forgotten, afraid of being alone, and fear changes behavior. Fear makes people overthink, overreact, overpursue. But emotional independence creates peace, because now you understand something important. You can survive disappointment. You can survive rejection. You can survive someone walking away. And the moment you realize this, your entire energy changes, because you stop acting from fear. You start acting from self-respect. You stop asking, how do I keep this person interested? And start asking, am I becoming someone I respect? That question changes your life, because self-respect creates confidence, and confidence creates attraction. The people who are chased the most are often not the people who need attention the most. They are the people who need it the least, because they have their own goals, their own mission, their own identity. And because of this, their presence feels valuable. The less dependent you become on external validation, the more emotionally powerful you become. And emotional power is attractive, because people are naturally drawn toward those who seem complete within themselves. The truth is simple. The more emotionally independent you become, the less you fear losing people. And strangely enough, when you stop fearing loss, people begin fearing your absence, because confidence is attractive, peace is attractive, self-respect is attractive. And once you become emotionally independent, you stop reacting to every situation and begin mastering another powerful weapon, the ability to remain calm and silent when everyone else is chasing and panicking. Once you become emotionally independent, you gain access to another kind of power, the power of not reacting. Most people react to everything. A delayed message changes their mood. A cold reply ruins their entire day. Someone becomes distant, and immediately they start chasing, questioning, and overthinking. They cannot tolerate uncertainty. They cannot tolerate silence. And because of this, they give away their emotional power. This is why emotional control is so rare and why it is so attractive. The person who reacts to everything appears emotionally dependent. The person who remains calm appears powerful. Think about it. When someone ignores you and you immediately send 3 more messages, what are you really communicating? You are communicating urgency, need, fear. You are telling the other person that they control your emotions. And the moment someone realizes they control your emotions, the entire dynamic changes, because power in relationships often belongs to the person who can remain calm. This is one of the darkest truths of human psychology. People are drawn toward emotional strength, toward people who seem centered and in control, not because those people do not care, but because they do not allow every situation to disturb their peace. This is why silence can become so powerful. Silence interrupts expectations. Most people expect immediate reactions, immediate explanations, immediate emotional responses. But when you remain calm, something different happens. People begin paying attention. They begin wondering, because your behavior no longer follows the pattern they expected. And uncertainty creates curiosity. Curiosity creates emotional tension. This is why refusing to chase changes the entire dynamic. The irony is beautiful. The more desperately you try to keep someone's attention, the more likely you are to lose it. The calmer you become, the more interesting you often appear because calmness communicates confidence. It says, I respect myself enough not to panic. I have a life outside this situation. I do not need immediate validation. This kind of emotional control is rare. Most people cannot sit with uncertainty. They need answers immediately. They need reassurance immediately. But powerful people understand something different. Not every silence requires a response. Not every distance requires pursuit. Not every situation deserves your emotional energy. This is why patience is so important. Patience protects your dignity. Because when you react impulsively, you often say things you regret, do things you regret. You chase people who were already walking away. You sacrifice your peace for temporary attention. But when you remain calm, you protect your self-respect, and self-respect changes everything. There is another reason emotional control is attractive. It creates mystery. People often expect emotional reactions. When they do not receive them, they begin thinking, why are they so calm? Why aren't they chasing me? Why do they suddenly seem different? Again, silence creates curiosity, and curiosity creates attention. This is the dark psychology behind not reacting. You are not trying to punish anyone. You are simply refusing to lose yourself in emotional chaos because your peace matters, your focus matters, your energy matters. Most people destroy their own value because they react to every situation emotionally. They make every problem bigger than it is. They allow other people's actions to control their emotional state. But emotional strength means something different. It means staying centered, staying patient, staying calm. It means understanding that not every situation needs an immediate response. The strongest people are often the quietest during emotional storms, not because they do not care, but because they understand that emotional reactions often create more problems than solutions. The truth is simple. When you stop reacting to every situation, you stop giving other people control over your emotions. You reclaim your power. You become calmer, stronger, more confident. And confidence is magnetic. Because people are naturally attracted to those who seem emotionally secure, those who do not panic, those who do not chase, those who can remain silent and still feel complete. And once you master this emotional control, you naturally begin focusing on something far more important than chasing attention. You begin building a life so meaningful that your presence becomes valuable all on its own. Once you stop reacting to every situation and begin protecting your peace, you naturally start focusing on something much more important, your own life. And this is where attraction changes completely. Most people spend too much time trying to become important in someone else's life. Very few people spend time becoming important in their own. They chase attention, chase approval, chase validation. And in the process, they forget to build themselves. But there is a psychological truth that almost nobody talks about. People are naturally attracted to those who are deeply invested in their own growth, to those who have purpose, directed, ambition. There is something magnetic about a person who wakes up every morning with goals bigger than chasing someone's attention, because purpose creates energy, and energy attracts people. Think about the individuals who leave strong impressions on others. They are usually not sitting around waiting for messages. They are creating, learning, building, improving. Their lives feel meaningful. And because their lives feel meaningful, their attention feels valuable. This is why self-improvement is one of the most attractive things you can do. When you focus on your body, your confidence changes. When you focus on your mind, your conversations change. When you focus on your goals, your entire energy changes. You begin walking differently, thinking differently, speaking differently, and people notice because growth is difficult to hide. The irony is beautiful. The moment you stop trying to impress someone is often the moment you become more impressive, because now your growth is real. You are not changing to get someone's attention. You are changing because you respect yourself enough to become better. And that creates confidence, real confidence, not the confidence that comes from being chosen, but the confidence that comes from becoming someone you admire. Most people underestimate how attractive purpose really is. Purpose creates emotional independence because now your happiness no longer depends entirely on another person. You have something to wake up for, something to work toward, something meaningful to build, and people are naturally attracted to individuals who seem alive with purpose because purpose communicates abundance. It says, my life is moving forward. I am becoming better. I have something meaningful to pursue. This kind of energy is difficult to ignore. There is another reason building your own life is powerful. It restores your identity. Many people lose themselves inside relationships. They forget their dreams, forget their passions, forget who they were before they started chasing someone else's attention. But self-growth brings you back to yourself. You remember your goals, your ambitions, your values. And slowly, your confidence returns because confidence is built through action. Every promise you keep to yourself builds self-respect. Every workout, every skill you learn, every goal you achieve, every challenge you overcome. You begin trusting yourself again, and self-trust creates inner strength. This is why people often become more attractive after focusing on themselves, not because they are trying harder, but because they finally stop neglecting themselves. The truth is simple. People chase value, and value often comes from growth, from discipline, from purpose, from confidence. When someone sees that you are becoming stronger, more focused, and more fulfilled, it changes the way they see you because now your attention feels important, your time feels important, your presence feels important. You are no longer the person desperately asking to be noticed. You are becoming someone whose life has meaning with or without anyone else's approval. And there is something deeply attractive about a person who is fully engaged in becoming better, because such people are rare. They are not waiting for life to happen. They are creating it. And people are naturally drawn toward creators, toward builders, toward individuals who have direction. The irony is that once you begin building a meaningful life, you stop needing everyone to notice you. And strangely enough, that is often when people start paying attention because your presence now carries weight. Your attention now carries value. And when your attention becomes valuable, people begin realizing that losing access to you might actually mean losing something important. That realization leads to the final and most powerful lesson of all. The greatest power comes from becoming someone whose absence is deeply felt and whose value is impossible to replace. After building your own value and creating a meaningful life, you arrive at the final and most powerful lesson of all. The greatest power is being willing to walk away. Most people are afraid of losing someone, so afraid that they tolerate disrespect, ignore their own needs, abandon their own standards. They stay in situations that hurt them simply because they fear being alone. But this fear quietly destroys their value, because the moment someone realizes that you will never leave, no matter how badly they treat you, the entire emotional dynamic changes. Your presence starts feeling guaranteed. And people often take for granted what they believe they can never lose. This is one of the darkest truths of human psychology. People value things differently when there is a possibility of losing them. This is why the willingness to walk away creates power, not because you want to punish someone, not because you want revenge, but because self-respect requires boundaries. And boundaries require courage. The courage to say, I value myself enough to leave situations that no longer respect me. There is something deeply attractive about a person who is willing to walk away because it communicates strength. It communicates confidence. It communicates emotional independence. It says, I want this connection, but I do not need it to survive. And there is a world of difference between wanting and needing. People who need attention become desperate. People who want attention remain calm. People who need relationships become afraid. People who want relationships maintain their standards. This is why self-respect changes everything. Because the person who respects themselves becomes difficult to manipulate. They do not chase endlessly. They do not beg for love. They do not sacrifice their peace to keep someone interested. Instead, they understand something powerful. Their value does not decrease simply because someone failed to recognize it. This mindset creates emotional strength, and emotional strength is attractive. Think about the people you admire. Many of them have one thing in common. They know when to walk away. They know when to protect their peace. They know that staying in situations that continuously drain them is not loyalty, it is self-abandonment. And people who refuse to abandon themselves naturally command respect. The irony is beautiful. The less afraid you become of losing people, the more valuable you often appear, because fear changes behavior. Fear makes people chase. Fear makes people over-explain. Fear makes people tolerate things they should never tolerate. But confidence creates something different. Confidence creates standards, and standards create value. This is why the willingness to walk away often changes how people see you, because now your presence no longer feels guaranteed, your attention no longer feels automatic, your energy no longer feels endless, and suddenly people begin realizing something. Losing you might actually mean losing something important. This is the hidden power of silence. Your absence can reveal your value in ways your presence never could. Not because you disappeared to play games, but because you finally chose yourself. You finally respected your own worth. You finally stopped chasing people who were comfortable taking you for granted. And that decision changes everything, because the strongest people are not those who can hold on forever. The strongest people are those who can let go when necessary, those who can walk away with dignity, those who understand that peace is more valuable than attention, those who refuse to destroy themselves just to keep someone else comfortable. The truth is simple. You become powerful the moment you realize that you can survive loss. You become attractive the moment you stop being controlled by the fear of abandonment. And you become unforgettable the moment you respect yourself enough to walk away from anything that makes you forget your worth. Because in the end, the real power of silence is not making someone miss you. The real power of silence is becoming so confident, so peaceful,